Good afternoon, everybody. It's 2 o'clock. I think we'll give it 1 or 2 more minutes, and then to respect everybody's time, we'll jump right in. Should be a relatively short meeting today. All right, it's 2 minutes after, so I think we'll get started. Joey or Azam, did you want to say anything to kick us off, or shall we jump right in?
Hey, Scott, this is Joey. I said we go ahead and get started.
All right. Jade, if you could go to the next slide. So welcome to the what should be the last call of the committee. Purpose of this is really to focus on the final steps in getting the plan through final review and ready for adoption. So we'll talk a bit about that, how the review's gone so far, and what comes next. This next set of slides is just on the project status. We've been going through this slide at every meeting just to follow the progression. As you can see, we're at the review and adopt plan portion of the process. So there's a completed draft plan, and many, if not most of you, have begun to review it. So from here, we'll go into the review, the FEMA review. Once we close out the public review and the Mitigation Advisory Committee review, we'll go into MDEM review. That is scheduled, as you can see on this slide, to happen this month. MDEM is aware that the plan has expired and that the county and the city are anxious to get it approved and adopted. So hopefully they'll move fast. It gets a little outside of our control after we deliver it to them. We have delivered the risk assessment portion for them to get a head start on. So we're cautiously optimistic that they'll move a little bit quicker than usual and get the plan into FEMA, but it will definitely go in this month. So just a little bit on the draft plan feedback. The responses from the committee have been really great. Also have received some responses from community residents. The feedback has given us some small edits from everything ranging from abbreviations to information clarifications in the capability assessment to folks providing additional data from jurisdictions for us to kind of enhance the local feel of the plan. So all that feedback has been good and appreciated. The survey is scheduled to close out this Sunday, February 5th. Jade indicated to me earlier that we're going to do a final social media blast and push this evening on the survey to try to get some last minute input. I think the graphic on the bottom right, this probably tells the story the best of all the folks who've taken the survey so far. It looks like there's a sliding bar that you can slide to indicate on a scale of 0 to 100 how useful you think the plan will be, and it's averaging right around 90. So that's encouraging to see. And then a couple of nice quotes there. I won't read them, but I'll just point to them before we move on. All right, so bottom line there is that we're we're nearing the end. I think Jade is going to go through some of the highlights from the draft plan before we talk about the next steps.
Yes, hello everyone. So I'm just going to go over some highlights from the draft plan. Hopefully most of you guys have seen some of this, so I won't belabor it too much, won't go into too much detail, but I just want to hit the highlights of the new things that have changed significantly, and the items that were added to meet the requirements of the updated FEMA guidance. So we had some new plan components added so that we could meet requirements for a couple different things. So we had the FEMA Mitigation Planning and Policy Guide, which was released last April, I believe, so in 2022, and it will be effective as of April of this year. So this plan for Prince George's County and the City of Laurel will be one of the first plans complying with the updated guidance since it's been released. And it technically doesn't even have to comply yet because it will be final and approved before the April 2023 deadline, but it's great that we're getting a head start and it's all good changes, so very worthwhile. We also have a dam and levee failure section, and we made sure that the dam information was compliant with FEMA's high hazard potential dam grant program. So they set some standards there for what to include, how much detail to go into, what data you have to include on high hazard potential dams. So we made sure to hit all of those marks. And then this plan will also be creditable under CRS Activity 510, which covers floodplain management planning. So just going over the hazard risk assessment update, there's a few different things, or quite a few different things actually, that were changed or updated here. So the first one as a category is future conditions, which contains a couple different components, one of them being population. So we were able to add a population section that went more in depth than the last plan. So instead of just covering kind of like raw population numbers, we were more forward looking here and trying to try and understand what the population of the county and the city of Laurel will look like in the future. So we used the Maryland Department of Planning Projects and State Data Center projections that they had, and those were using 2010 census and American Community Survey data. So they were not using the most recent 2020 census data yet. So we took those projections, adjusted them based on 2020 census data counts, and utilized their annualized growth rates. So I'm sure they'll be coming out with something new there, and it might be adjusted, but this was kind of our best estimate with the data we had available. Yes, Brian, you have something to say?
Yeah, very briefly, and that is some of our local jurisdictions may have numbers that sort of challenge this. So for the city of Laurel, we know for a fact that we've gotten in several housing developments that were not included. We're actually filling them right now, so that we know that our projection for next year is going to be well above the 29,400 mark. We're actually already above that. So that's and it helps the county. That number is actually going to be higher. We're going to be well over like 32,000 than lower. And we have the housing developments already online and families in to challenge that projection. So is there any way we could sort of, at least if we can't change it, then keep it at the 2020 census level rather than show a decrease that's not going to materialize?
Yeah, we can definitely adjust that. So I marked down what you just mentioned there to make note of that. But if you have any information that you could email to me on that, we would definitely love to get that updated. Because here we really have to not only just show the 2020 census data, but show some kind of projection to discuss what future conditions would be like. So anything to make that more accurate would be fantastic.
Sure, we'll send it to you. We're actually very proud that we got these houses up and the families in. So we'll send you the net increase along with ECD on that.
That would be perfect. Thank you so much. Okay, great. So looking forward to enhancing this section as well. So we'll get that done as soon as we get that data over to us. So another component of future conditions was looking at future development. So we were able to use the county's Plan 2035 future growth areas data and included that in our hazard analysis. So we have a few hazards that we were able to use that with. So riverine flood, extreme heat, dam and levee failure, and wildfire. Basically any of our hazards that had like spatial hazard area data that we could go off of. So we have an example here on the right that's showing the future growth areas and dam and levee inundation zones. And we have similar maps and similar analyses that were done for the other hazards that I mentioned before. And then finally, for future conditions, we also looked at climate. So FEMA now requires that we need to evaluate changes to climate conditions that could affect hazards, risks, vulnerability, all of that. So I believe it was the U.S. Climate Toolkit just released the Climate Mapping for Resilience and Adaptation tool fairly recently. So we were able to utilize that. Along with some of the other data that we had available to us, and that it uses climate models that are used in other publications like the National Climate Assessment. So everything was very consistent, even though we were pulling from a couple different sources, but we were able to come up with kind of our summary climate projections for the county and the city of Laurel, and that helped inform and was integrated into the individual climate sections. So another component of the risk assessment, another addition, was that we used HAZUS to do some loss estimation this time around. It's really apparent in the flood section. There's a lot of great new analyses and data that we are able to include, some new maps in there. But we were able to use HAZUS for riverine and coastal flooding, as well as hurricane and earthquake.
Yeah, and I'll emphasize that's a big one because all of your previous plans never had enough budget to do that. So this is a real catch-up step on the flooding analysis in terms of quantifying damages from scenarios. It's great that we could do it this time.
Yeah, it does a great job of really honing in and highlighting like the hot spots that you can focus on for some of these mitigation activities. Another component of the risk assessment was the newly added hazard risk index score. So previously the ranking was pretty simplified and went focused a lot on not really having a actual score with a formula. It was a little bit more generic, but we were able to enhance that with the additional budget this time around. So it really captures some of the changes, and it will continue to capture some of those changes moving forward as the plan is updated. And this just shows like the summary table, but in the plan, in the risk assessment summary section, there's a whole write-up, and it shows kind of more of a deep dive into the individual components and what they mean. So you can learn more about impact, geographic extent, warning time, community concern, all of that. Oops. Hassan, you have a question?
Yeah, just a quick question about the second in the column, severe storm flood related. It's like flash flooding. Based on what we talk about, it's like the flash flood risk.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just want to make sure about it. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, flash flood, and there's some discussion of calling out like pluvial flooding specifically, so some stormwater concerns, even though we're unable to do like a full pluvial model or stormwater analysis, it does have some discussion about that as well. And then overall, just, there's a lot of new maps and tables. Weren't able to include everything, but just pulled a couple in here, and there's plenty more to be discovered in the risk assessment overall. So the mitigation strategy was also updated. We had new goals, like we've talked about plenty of times in the old plan. There was one overarching goal, so we were able to break that up. Still, all of these 4 new goals still fit into the original goal. They just add a little bit more nuance and describe and call out some important points that we heard were important from not only the Mitigation Advisory Committee, you guys, but also the public. And then all of these goals were able, or all of the actions were able to be tied back to the individual goals, which is something that's required for credit under the community rating system. And then I also have some screenshots here of what the mitigation actions consist of. The one with the blue border on the left goes into detail describing what some of the column headers are in the actual action table, which is shown partially in the top right. And there was a decent amount of enhancement to the implementation plan chapter, which I think there's some great additions there. So mentioned it during the last meeting, but we were able to do or include technical assistance for the first time. So we have a table that provides an overview of several different technical assistance options, some from the federal government, different programs such as hazard mitigation assistance programs, other federal agencies and departments, as well as some other sources as well. So we include the name of the program, a brief overview, some links to learn more information, and then a contact column. So we can include basically what was available on online already for who to contact to get access some of this technical assistance and get in motion. And then we also included some technical assistance case studies to help just paint a picture of what can be asked for technical assistance, how it can be used, some results that have been seen from using and taking advantage of technical assistance. So I'm really hopeful that this will really help increase project implementation, especially because a lot of these technical assistance programs aren't as taken advantage of as you might think. So I think some people think they can apply for it, they're never going to get chosen, but a lot of the programs, like, they are looking for people to apply. So these resources really are just out there waiting. So hopefully that will be of use. And then also in this chapter, we have funding opportunities. So we have a table that lists the sources of potential funding opportunities, that lists programs, the source, so who is offering this, whether it's federal or private. And we also have some state opportunities in there, what type of funding it is, and then some information about cost share, maximum amount that can be requested, and then a link to some more information. And then related to this overall to implementation, we created an annual progress report. So this is something that the community rating system looks for. And I know that the county has one posted online that they did in 2019, but we went ahead and, looked at that, also looked at community rating system requirements and what would be helpful for future plan updates in terms of what FEMA is looking for, and created a template for an annual progress report that is located in the appendix. I think one of the last appendices that are in that document. And it includes a pre-filled table with all the current actions. So it should be fairly easy to get those updated, and we'll provide like a separate Word document with the template. We kind of have like images in the appendix of the plan, but we have the Word document that will be much easier to deal with when the annual update comes around. And then finally, a little bit of a catch-all here for some other items, but we really wanted to tailor this to be as useful and actionable as possible. So we took a look at some of the hazard mitigation assistance programs and what they are looking for in their grant applications, and what they view as important, how to increase or get more points, especially for BRIC and FMA when you're dealing with competitive grants. So they really focus on social vulnerability. They like to see plan integration. BRIC especially likes to see links to community lifelines. So we tried to hit all of those in the plan update as well. We included the CDC Social Vulnerability Index information in a few different chapters, and integrated that into the risk assessment as well. We have plenty of plan integration throughout, not only like with future development, how I mentioned earlier, but also we have a section that looks at other plans that are in under other county and city plans, and highlights some opportunities for improving integration with mitigation concepts. And then also an overview of how mitigation has been integrated into other plans in the past. And we have a section on community lifelines, but honestly, most of the critical facilities that we looked at in the risk assessment are pretty well linked to these community lifelines. Hopefully that will make it as easy as possible, but there is like general information about what community lifelines are and why they're important to the BRIC program. And I think it's chapter 2, but early on in the plan. I will throw it back over to Scott. Oh, Scott, you are on mute.
Thanks. Yeah, just one slide on next steps, and then we'll get into any questions you might have. So we're trying to get all of your feedback and close out the public feedback by the end of this week. As I said earlier, the public survey will close on Sunday, so that next week we can make the changes and hopefully get the plan out to MEMA to begin the review process. Once we get comments back from MEMA and or FEMA, sometimes if I keep saying MEMA, sorry, MDEMS now, sometimes if MDEMS comments are very minimal, they'll forward the plan directly to FEMA and we can address both entities' comments at once. Sometimes they'll send it back and we'll have to address MDEMS comments first before submittal to FEMA. But either way, we'll adjudicate those comments and prepare the final plan as fast as we can once we receive them. And then we'll come back to you with, in the draft plan, we'll have some sample adoption resolutions for the reviewers to approve when they approve the plan. And at that point, it'll be pretty easy just to get those meetings scheduled with the legislative bodies, and we can provide some backup support and talking points and so forth, and we should be done. Last opportunities for engagement. The barcode here and the link on the left is to the plan for final opportunity to provide comments. And then on the other right-hand side of the slide is the same material for the public meeting, which will be held tomorrow night. And as I also mentioned, we'll be doing an email, or not an email, but a social media blast this evening to try to muster up some participation in that meeting tomorrow night. So anything you can do to support that, reminding stakeholders and et cetera, the more participation we have, the more we can show in that section of the plan, and the smoother it makes the review process go. So on those final words, I will open it up to any questions or feedback or discussion. Yeah, we have one question or one hand up. Go ahead.
Good afternoon, everyone. I believe this is the first time I'm actually asking a question. I'm Mel Mickens, the new deputy director over at Homeland Security Emergency Management Division. But thank you for providing the update. I really appreciate the calls that I've sat on and the information that I've read. I really appreciate the partnership that you all have provided. With regard to the survey, I know you had a slide early on about the numbers and somewhat of the feedback. Do we have a rough number on the feedback forms that have been submitted?
Yeah, we have, I think just under 10 or right about 10 that we've received so far, just from the feedback, this most recent survey. So we're really trying to, encourage as many people as possible. Like Scott said, we want to do another social media push on a couple different platforms. So we'll be doing that today. And we're also going to reach out again to anyone that took the initial hazard mitigation survey early on in the process. Those that left their contact information to stay involved, we're going to be sending that opportunity out to them as well. So yeah, any help that anyone can provide in getting more feedback, it is definitely encouraged.
So social media blast is certainly a good opportunity to catch a large group of folks, but is that the general norm for reaching out to folks?
Yeah, I would say especially the draft review survey is notorious for not getting that many people to respond. I think it just sounds intimidating. I think they have to review this whole giant plan. We tried to emphasize at the beginning of the survey, like, you don't need to do that. You can do a quick skim and provide feedback. So we'll certainly be emphasizing that. But we do also have some little like graphics that were created that contain the QR code and they're made and like formatted for social media, especially Facebook. So we have those available after this meeting. I can share those with everyone just in case they want to share them on their Facebook or anything and try and get the word out there. But yeah, the norm is usually for this process is sending it out through email blasts, like newsletters, any kind of listservs from the county or city, and then social media.
Yeah, and I will say prior to the pandemic, we didn't even do that. It was usually just public meetings. So as bad as light as 10 sounds, is actually for this particular review, it's, believe it or not, it's not horrible. It would be great to get more, but it's definitely not uncommon.
With regard to the public meeting, same kind of distribution to inform people, correct?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would think that, I mean, maybe some of my colleagues that have been in the county longer than I have, we would do something to post to county, everyone in the county, employees especially, to be able to participate or be aware of this. Make it a few more responses.
Yeah, that would be great. I think one of the actions that we have in the plan is, once this plan is adopted, to send it to, all the folks that work in the county, or at least all the departments, just so everyone is aware. So, starting that kind of work early, always encouraged.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments, feedback?
Scott, this is Hassan. Just follow up. We're gonna get the slides for uploading our web page or after this meeting or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay,
Yeah, I can provide the slides. We'll have the notes. The recording usually takes a little bit to process, so that probably won't have for you until tomorrow. I think it usually takes a few hours for it to be ready for download, but everything else I can get to you after the meeting.
Thank you.
Thank you all very much. It's been a good group to work with. We'll be talking more when it comes time to adopt, but we got off to a late start with a relatively tight budget and a very, very short schedule, and everybody cooperated and held up their end of the bargain and did what you promised to do at the beginning of the process. So we really appreciate that. And that's the reason, one of the reasons that we're here and at this stage on time. So thanks.
And this is Dawn. We'll try to push it out, this request for comments out one more time this week. I'll ask our PIO to send it out again this afternoon. So trying to think of some groups that we can target to get the feedback, but I'll lean on her to figure that out.
Yeah, that sounds good. Appreciate that.
Son, do you know if we have a direct, oh, never mind. I guess a member of the municipalities, are they part of our group? I was wondering if they could push it out to there.
Yeah, we have already sent emails to our municipalities through our liaison. Yeah, they are aware of public meeting for tomorrow.
Okay.
All right, well, if there's no other questions or comments, then we can close out here a little bit early, but feel free if you have any other questions. You guys should all have my email. I'll also be sending out those little graphics you can post on social media if you feel inclined. And if you haven't submitted any feedback on the survey, feel free. We have the QR codes here again. But as Scott said, thank you all so much. It's always much easier doing these when, the Mitigation Advisory Committee is very participatory, and you guys certainly have been and continue to be, so very much appreciated. So thanks everyone, and you will hear from me soon.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye.